Joining me now is Senator John McCain of Arizona. Senator, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Chuck. Good to be back with you.
I want to start with, I know you told some reporters today on Capitol Hill you spoke with the president last night on this topic. What can you share?
Yesterday morning, after all the information came out, he said he was very concerned about it, that he was having meetings with General Mattis, with the Secretary, with General McMaster, and they would be providing him with the advice and counsel that, frankly, I think is appropriate way to address the issue. But he was certainly very concerned.
You have said you believe Assad needs to pay the price. Previously, you have said potentially one way to do this is ground the Air Force, take their Air Force out. They cannot fly again. If they fly, they go down. Is that still your recommendation of sort of the initial response?
That's my initial response. Also, we need to establish the safe zones where refugees can be and where we can train and equip the Free Syrian Army. I would just add one point to that, the pilots. You know, the Nuremberg trials after World War II, carrying out orders was not a sufficient excuse when they tried the Nazis. Carrying out orders is not sufficient excuse for dropping nerve gas on innocent civilians. We all saw the pictures and were appalled and shocked and angered and sorrowed. Just incredible.
Is this a reminder that there is a belief that a moral compass matters in foreign policy at the end of the day, that, you know, candidate Donald Trump said, hey, there's too many quagmires, we're getting involved in too many affairs, it's tragic, but at the end of the day, we can't do everything. Do you get the sense that President Trump now realizes there's no other policeman in the world?
I think he's realizing our moral responsibility, and it was graphically demonstrated to him with a picture of the father holding the two dead babies. And so I think he's getting it. I think he realizes that America must lead. And by the way, America has not led for the last 8 years. And by the way, whatever happened to the much trumpeted removal of all of this stuff, that there was the agreement with Russia and Bashar Assad that Obama and Kerry were so proud of. So,
well, I want to talk about that. What responsibility does Vladimir Putin have for this attack? Nikki Haley, the ambassador to the United Nations, essentially said, this is on Putin's hands, too. It was his responsibility, his pledge in this deal. And granted, I know you thought it was naive to do a deal with them, but the Russians had publicly committed to removing these chemical weapons. Is Putin, should he be held responsible for this?
Oh, I think absolutely he should be responsible, because by announcing this grand agreement, which would remove any chemical weapons, they obviously didn't keep their end of the bargain. Also, you know, Chuck, the Russian aircraft used precision-guided weapons to hit hospitals in Aleppo, killing wounded people in gross violation of every international law and normal standard. And Vladimir Putin is responsible for it, and I hope that we will hold him responsible. And the best way to do that is increase sanctions, give the Ukrainians defensive weapons with which to defend themselves, and recognize it's the old peace through strength. Look, this is an opportunity for this president, who is clearly being tested, clearly being tested, to stand up and, frankly, make a name for himself, which I think could be very helpful to him and the nation.
Do you connect, you know, Senator Rubio believes that it wasn't a coincidence that 1 week after Secretary of State Tillerson essentially changed American policy on Assad, that this happened. Do you think it was a coincidence?
I think a lot of it has to do with Vladimir Putin and Assad thinking that they could get away with this. Statements that were made, obviously, by the president during the campaign and by Secretary Tillerson. By the way, I was very pleased to hear his statement today. You know, some of these people, as highly credentialed as they are, Chuck, they're in a learning experience. Yeah. So I think that what we heard from the Secretary of State today was very helpful. We need to increase sanctions on Iran, on Vladimir Putin, and understand what kind of a competition we're in.
Two more questions. One, any military strike that the president considers, he doesn't need congressional approval. Do you think he should get it?
I don't think he needs congressional approval. One of the precedence for that was after the bombing of the disco in Berlin.
Right.
Ronald Reagan, as you know, struck Libya.
Right.
But the larger picture, we need an AU authorization for the use of military force. We got to update it. We got to make it realistic, and we've got to have Congress, the representatives of the American people, involved in some of these decisions. So I'm going to work with Senator Tim Kaine and others to try to come up with one.
I got to ask you, though, let's say this military strike is taken out, and let's say it's successful enough to ground the Assad Air Force, really weaken Assad. Then what? Because that has always been the conundrum, right?
Yes.
Then what?
I think then you establish the safe zone, you arm and train and equip the Free Syrian Army. You do not stop your efforts to retake Raqqa. You can do two things at once, and we have to obviously try to hold people responsible and make them pay a price for it, both Bashar Assad and Vladimir Putin. It's not easy.
Who rebuilds Syria? Is this are we going to be in the rebuilding effort of Syria?
We have to, Chuck, look at what happened in Libya after we walked away after getting rid of Gaddafi.
It's going to be a tough political sell. It's going to be a tough domestic sell.
It was very tough after World War II, my friend. I believe in the goodness and decency of the American people, and we got to make it clear to them why it's in our national interests.
I wanted to ask you about the Senate today. Michael Bennet was just on. He said to say hi. He said he thought that you and he at least had talked about trying to find a way to stop this. Were you guys alone? Is that the problem?
No, we had several others with us that were in a room in my office, and we discussed this. Frankly, as opposed to the last couple of times where we were able to avert this, the leadership was not interested, and there was more of a polarization, which is reflective of the attitudes of the country, in my view, which made it different from the last couple of times where we were able to divert it. Have no doubt, Chuck, we're on a slippery slope.
What does this mean for the courts? More polarized courts? Do you think it's going to end up having Americans distrust the courts if all of our courts are filled with far left and far right?
I think it's going to harm the fairness of our judicial system, and the consequences of that obviously are not necessary right now with a very cynical public that we have. Look at the approval rating of Congress.
If it wasn't for you, our approval rating in the media would be what people were talking about. It's just friends and family for both of us these days, Senator McCain.
I'm afraid it is, my friend, and we've known each other for a long time, and you've gotten worse over the years. I
understand that. I know. Both of us have. Going right downhill, sir.
You've been hiding your own Easter eggs.
Senator McCain, on the day that we mourn Don Rickles, we get a little Rickles from you. I appreciate it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.